The Sustained Dialogue Institute held its first Ambassador Dialogue Series on May 29, 2019 at the Ronald Reagan Building and International Trade Center in Washington, D.C. The first of the series featured His Excellency Daniel Mulhall, Ambassador of Ireland to the United States. Andrew Gelfuso, Vice President, Trade Center Management Associates, Ronald Reagan Building, International Trade Center, gave welcoming remarks to the audience.
I'd like to recognize and welcome Ambassador Mulhall. Honor to have you here, sir. We're excited to launch our first program today as part of our new partnership, and it's called the Ambassador Dialogue Series.
We've picked a series of countries for this series that we believe could be instrumental and hopefully important in the ongoing global dialogue of peace building. I wanted to start with just a sort of broad overall global question, and that is about how you see the state of the world. I mean, I've given a little introduction there about the perilous situation that we see, but is that how you see it, or do you see it differently? And especially, how do you see Ireland's place in that and history? Where do you place Ireland in the particular state that we're in right now?
If you look at the European Parliament elections that took place last week, it's a mixed picture. In some countries, these parties, anti-immigrant, populist, anti-European, borderline racist parties make ground. In other places, they lost out.
Right.
So it strikes me that you now have a divided politic in Europe, not in Ireland, where we don't have these parties actually. No party in Ireland has embraced that sort of populist ethic. No party has developed an anti-immigrant policy. So what I'm saying is that, yes, we live in an era where nasty old things, nasty old habits are reasserting themselves. But I'm not prepared to say that this assertion is going to lead to an inevitable collapse of democratic values.
That's actually a very interesting note. It's a note of hope that, it's also a note, is this thing cyclical?
It's wrong to draw firm conclusions, but what you can say is that there seems to be some sign of middle-of-the-road political parties reasserting themselves, and of parties like the Greens, who are essentially a centrist party as well. Okay, they have some radical ideas to do with climate change and so forth, but they're essentially part of the established fabric in Europe. They're re-emerging. The Liberal parties did well this time around as well. So in other words, the parties that did badly were the centre-right and centre-left, but the kind of parties that are traditionally been smaller, like the Greens and the Liberals, have actually increased their support, as sadly have the extreme right. But again, the increase in votes for the extreme right was quite modest on this occasion.
In particular, I'm interested in how if you see dialogue, if you see whatever we call that, the notion of trying to talk to each other across boundaries, is that something that's happening in Ireland, getting worse, getting better? Where do you see that happening in?
Well, it's getting better, but there's not enough of it. Now, people still live separate lives, and they still have, in their heads, they still feel very different from the other communities. So there are two tribes in Northern Ireland. There's the Irish nationalist Catholic tribe, and there's the British Unionist Protestant tribe. And, one would like to think that after 20 years of peace, there'd be more coming together. And there has been a certain amount, to be quite clear about it. There's no doubt about it. There has been, a lot's been done, lots happened. But has it become a normal society? No. Are there still tensions? Yes, there are. Are there still barriers between the communities? Yes, there are.
If you had something, well, you do, you're an ambassador, you have a great platform, that you would like to say to how the United States could deal in the world, could offer its state-to-state relationships, which is what I do, what would you want to say to the American populace, and for that matter, the influencers and shakers and movers up on the hill not far away from here?
I would hope that the big agenda of shared US and European interests and values won't be forgotten because of relatively trivial differences between us at the moment.
Do you think that it's better that the extreme nationalistic European parties are expressed by democratic vote in the European Parliament, or is it better that they just exist silently in European society?
We live in a democracy, and in a democracy, anyone has the right to stand for election and to seek a public mandate. I may not like some of the parties and some of the politicians who have received a public mandate over the last 20 years in different parts of Europe. But I believe that their emergence is what's likely to result in their ultimate defeat politically.
The Sustained Dialogue Institute isn't just a diplomatic organization, but at least part of the work we do involves culture. So I said, well, will a cultural moment be okay if you would you come and read something that I'm assuming Irish poetry, that you love?
William Butler Yeats, the great Nobel Prize winning poet of the first half of the 20th century. The bit I'm going to read is a short bit from it and it's one section, it's called The Stairs Nest by My Window, and it's about the starlings nesting in his tower. The bees build in the crevices of loosening masonry. And there, the mother birds bring grubs and flies. My wall is loosening. Honey bees, come build in the empty house of the stair. We are closed in, and the key is turned on our uncertainty. Somewhere a man is killed or a house burned, yet no clear fact to be discerned. Come build in the empty house of the stair. A barricade of stone or of wood. Some 14 days of civil war. Last night they trundled down the road. That dead young soldier in his blood. Come build in the empty house of the stair. We had fed the heart on fantasies. The heart's grown brutal from the fair. More substance in our enmities than in our love. Oh, honeybees, come build in the empty house of the stair. Thank you.